Hey everybody, DeLong Shot Signatures here. We're going to go with a wide shot to start off this video to show off a couple of autographs that I got yesterday before we get into the rest of them that I got. But yesterday was the WWE Royal Rumble in Indianapolis, which, being one of the crown jewel events in World Wrestling Entertainment, brought a whole bunch of opportunities and cool stuff for wrestling fans and some autograph opportunities. There was actually two events that I went to. I thought that they were the same, but one is officially affiliated with the WWE, the other one is not. So the first thing that I went to, I got there around 9 in the morning to the convention center, and that was the WWE Superstore. I basically just followed everyone who had a championship belt over their shoulder or a John Cena T-shirt until I found that. I was a little bit disappointed with it. Felt like there could have been more stuff to do and a little bit more of the space used. And we were told to get in line, which wrapped all the way around upstairs. Then you had to go down an escalator and then you could get in. But decent sized store. Would have thought they would have had a little bit more. Only ended up buying one thing, but I didn't buy anything the first time through. They did have a section with autographed photos, and it was of some of the top names. John Cena, CM Punk, Drew McIntyre, Dominic Mysterio. And I was like, man, it'd be really cool to buy one of these, but I'm not paying $250 or $400 for a signed 8x10. As much as I would love to add any of those guys' autographs, I know what they mean to the sport. I ain't paying that much. But they did have an autograph area once you left the Superstore, and it was just for a handful of current stars. You could also get photo ops, and that was in a different section, but I wasn't about to pay $70 to take a picture with somebody. But I did get two autographs via the experience of two current WWE talents. I had to go back into the Superstore to find something to get signed, and the only thing that really made any sense to get was a Royal Rumble poster. I got this for $30. Really nice quality. But we got two autographs here. First one is Carlito, who I remember as a kid. He was just kind of starting his career. He's had some issues with the WWE, but he's back now. The other one was Blair Davenport. As you can see, I put the poster back into this giant hard protective cover, whatever you want to call it. And it did smear a little bit, which is very, very unfortunate. But Carlito, I think, was about $40, and then Blair Davenport was, I think, $32. So I was like, okay, for current WWE talents, that's a decent deal. I thought there would be more names announced as the day went on. Thankfully, I did not stick around after that. A buddy that I know from work was also there. We hung out for a little bit, and he told me that the WWE experience was not the same as WrestleCon. So thankfully for him, I was still able to attend WrestleCon and do all the fun stuff with that. But it was still decent. It was a nice little setup, but I just felt like there could have been more. There was a lot of unused space in that area. But regardless, I got to meet two current WWE wrestlers. So thankfully, because of my friend who was there, I was able to attend the main thing that I was there for, WrestleCon. So WrestleCon is not directly affiliated with the WWE, but it seems like they do about 3 of those a year, mostly for the crown jewel events for WWE. So Indianapolis getting the Royal Rumble meant that we got a WrestleCon, and it's a very pricey event. Most of them were at least $20 for an autograph, some of them a lot more. I wasn't able to meet everyone that I wanted to, and especially getting there a little bit later than I had hoped by accidentally attending the Superstore for too long. I still did pretty well. I think I got a total of 12 autographs. I could have gotten more, except I waited a very long time in line for one particular person, but got to meet 2 people, and I ran out of cash very quickly. The event was kind of what I was expecting, just a bunch of tables and booths and, all the superstars that were there and Hall of Famers, legends, and some people that aren't affiliated with the WWE. They're, do more independent promotions and international stuff. So it was really, really cool. But a lot of them didn't accept credit cards. A lot of the people were having issues with their credit card readers, so that really sucked. And then a lot of them you could try to use something like Venmo or PayPal, but there was issues with that too. So it was a mostly cash event. I do believe that there were some ATMs downstairs, but given the time that I had already lost with it, I was like, I'll just see who I can get for cheap, a couple of names that I specifically wanted to get, and then the waiting in line took up most of the opportunities. But I also wouldn't have had the money to really get too many other people. So the first person that I got has performed on AEW in the past, but she mostly does, it looks like, some international, like Japanese wrestling promotions. But I got a signed photo of Maki Ito. I'm not sure if that's exactly how it's pronounced, but it really set the tone for how the event would be, because my buddy and I walked in there and I was like, oh man, there's so many booths set up, and I'm like, it doesn't seem like everyone is here that's supposed to be here, so maybe some of them are still arriving. And then I looked and she was standing right there, and I only had to wait about 2 minutes to meet her. And other than the super long line that I was in, I didn't have to wait more than 10 minutes to meet any of these people. Super friendly, great interactions, and most of them were signing with paint pens. So they were telling me, let it dry, let it dry. This one did get smeared a little bit. I could tell on the backs of other photos that a couple of them lost a little bit of ink, but you can barely even notice it. So very, very awesome way to start. I'm not going in order on who I met. So some of these stories will kind of interblend. But I was in line to meet a Hall of Famer, and that was the second longest line I was in, and that was about 10 minutes. And some people were talking crap about this girl in the fact that, like, no one was going up to her booth, and, like, nobody knows who she is and all this and that. And I felt pretty bad. And I think she only charged, like, 10 or 20 bucks for an autograph. So I was like, screw it. After I meet this guy, I'll go meet her. All of these people were super nice. I can just say it 1,000 times, but very, very nice. She wrestles in a few local independent circuits. Believe one of them is like the Ohio Valley Wrestling promotion, but this is Hollywood Haley J. Couldn't really find too much about her other than the promotions that she fought in. But she was very kind, really cool to have an interaction with her, and it seemed to make her day a little bit better that I'd come up and ask for an autograph. Next one was another cool experience. I don't think she's in AEW or WWE, another one who does some independent promotions. Don't think she has had a match this year. But I think for $30, I was able to get an autograph and a couple of photos with her. And apparently I have the same name as her nephew, so she included that as an inscription. This is Missa Kate. So she wrote "Love the Name" on there. So we talked about that, told her that I was named after Michael Landon from Little House on the Prairie, and she thinks her nephew was named after a country artist or an actor whose real name is Landon and played a country artist. She couldn't remember exactly. But super, super nice. We took a couple photos together. It's a serious one and then a fun one where we both stuck our tongues out and flipped off the camera. She just had a ton of energy. Very, very nice to meet her. Right next to her is a guy that I didn't really like growing up, and I kind of watched the end of his career. I didn't get to see all the cool stuff he did when he was a little bit more of a face in wrestling, but I was able to meet Chavo Guerrero. Again, like I said, all of these people were super nice and personable, so it was weird walking up to someone that I didn't like as a kid when I watched wrestling, but to, meet them in person and just see how they are once they, can drop the kayfabe and everything, was just really cool. He was also talking to, they had handlers there that were doing a lot of the, what are you getting? How, this is how much it is. Here's, the ways to pay and everything. And he was talking to his handler about some dude had his merch table flipped. I don't know if it was part of, a storyline or if it actually happened, because it was supposed to be like an AEW extra, but one of the guys wasn't. I didn't really understand what exactly he was trying to tell the guy, but he was showing me the video too, and it was crazy. But Chavo, just a super, super nice guy. It's really hard to determine for the WWE who you would consider the best, because in any other sport you would go off of stats and accomplishments and everything. But with the WWE, I'm sorry if I ruined the spectacle for anyone, it's scripted. All of the events are predetermined and everything. But what happens in the ring, some of it's predetermined, but a lot of it is just, really good acting and a lot of athleticism to try and put on a good show for everyone without hurting each other. Some people do hurt each other, but, that's besides the point. So if you were to look at the stats for Chavo Guerrero, there's a new website that I found that has a much better database than what I was looking at prior. He has a losing record by a wide margin. I imagine most of that was towards the end of his career. But multiple time champion and, being part of the Guerreros and everything that he did with Eddie, the legacy is there. So I'm curious to see if he ends up making the WWE Hall of Fame. There are people who have accomplished a little bit less than he has, but a lot of them were also guys who were made one of the faces of WWE and were consistent winners. So we'll see what they end up doing with him, but I was super, super glad to meet him. Then we have another guy who had a pretty solid career, not a super long one, but a big voice, and it makes sense because from what I could find, he was recently or still is an announcer or in-ring announcer for a boxing promotion. But this is Ken Anderson, Mr. Kennedy. Another guy who wasn't a huge fan of. He was definitely a villain at times with the WWE as Mr. Kennedy, and he always had the mic come down and he would yell his name, a couple times. And it was really just to, take off the crowd and, make an enemy. But another one of those dudes that's just super, super personable and very kind. And it looks like he writes out his name, Mr. Kennedy, Mr. Kennedy, or something, just whatever he would say on the mic at the start of matches and stuff. So very, very busy autograph there, but cool dude. I was really surprised for this next one that there wasn't a line for her. She wasn't like the biggest diva in the world, but she was involved as backstage. She would do interviews and stuff. She was part of several feuds and, was a decent enough wrestler in and of her own. She was one of the two that I was able to actually pay with a credit card, which I would prefer doing that more than just handing cash out to everybody. But we were able to add Maria Kanellis to the collection with a fantastic autograph there. She was one of my favorite divas growing up, even if, sometimes she was part of like the heel and everything. Just really awesome to meet her. She was maybe like the least personable. I don't know if she didn't like the fact that people weren't coming to her as much, which would be understandable. I could tell a few of the talents there were annoyed that their tables were being ignored. But she was still nice enough to sign and gave a fantastic autograph on that. And then we got some Hall of Famers here. I didn't get every Hall of Famer that I wanted, but I was able to add several, and really happy with the results. And only one of these guys I had to wait more than a couple minutes for. So first one we got is Brutus the Barber Beefcake. He was telling me he really liked this photo that I picked out because it was at Trump Plaza, and you can see our current president, Donald Trump, sitting there ringside. He's a WWE Hall of Famer himself. I remember as a kid, there was the storyline between him and Vince McMahon for the billionaire bald off or whatever, and they ended up shaving Vince's head at WrestleMania because his wrestler lost. So as far as entertainment goes, Trump is up there. You can have your opinions on him one way or the other. I'm not going to share mine. But as far as entertainment goes, that guy was a big part of WWE. Next Hall of Famer that we got is the Honky Tonk Man. Another just super nice and, personable guy there. A lot of them would spend time and talk to people because they didn't really have long lines. And I was just... and it might have been due to the price point. Some of these guys were $50, $60 for an autograph. If you wanted a photo, that would be another $50 to $60. But if you did both, they would say that they were doing a deal, and you could just pay $80 to get an autograph and a picture. So, I know a lot of people really enjoy getting pictures with their heroes and everything like that. But at the end of the day, you kind of limit yourself when you charge so much. I imagine that money, I was talking about it with several people there, I imagine that money gets split between WrestleCon and then the convention center or hotel, wherever you're at that's hosting the event, the handlers that are there, helping out, and the talents themselves. And just with the price of everything, it sucks as a collector, especially for a lot of those people there who don't have a lot of money but still want to go and meet their heroes, to kind of have to pick and choose who you want. And that was part of the problem with me, was I didn't really get to meet everyone that I wanted because I realized I was running low on money, and there was one particular name that I really wanted. So I kind of had to hold off. But thankfully I did get in line when I did, because I might not have gotten an autograph. Next Hall of Famer we got is Hacksaw Jim Duggan, who gave a great blue autograph on this very patriotic photo. He was really happy that I picked out this one for him to sign. And there were a lot of woos that were being shouted throughout the day and stuff. Very funny guy, too. Super cool to meet him. This guy I waited about 10 minutes in line for, and it was completely worth it. This guy, I believe he's a former Olympic weightlifter, bodybuilder, or not necessarily that, power lifter? I don't know, something like that. And he is also a WWE Hall of Famer, which I didn't know until I got home. But we got Mark Henry. He was one of the few people that if you got an autograph, you would get a picture for free. And the handler there was super kind about it and very helpful in getting that put together. I just realized looking at this that the bottom of his signature is a person lifting, probably doing a deadlift. Not a deadlift. Powerlifting? I don't know. I'm not strong. I don't know the terms for these things. But very cool. And it was when I was waiting in his line that I heard the people talking crap about the Hollywood girl. So I was like, oh, I'll get an autograph from her. She's probably not going to be charging too much. And she wasn't. While waiting in line for 2.5 hours for a very particular person, I was thankfully around a bunch of great people who I was able to talk to. And they were like, hey, if you want to step out of line to meet someone, like, just let us know. We'll let you come back in line. We're not going to kick you out. And, they're like, we're all here for the same thing. We're all here for one day. It's just a few hours. Like, go get who you want. And, I did the same thing for them. And as I was waiting in line, once we got close enough to meet this person, I thought he had left for the day. But I think he just went to the restroom, actually. But he came back, and I spent the last $60 that I had in my wallet. So I didn't know if I was even going to be able to pay for the next autographs that I was going to get, but I had to get the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, Hall of Fame 2010. I didn't grow up watching a lot of these people, like Mark Henry, Maria Kanellis, Ken Anderson, those people I watched, but I didn't watch Ted DiBiase other than when he made, a few appearances as a legend. Here and there. I didn't watch the Honky Tonk Man. I didn't watch Jim Duggan. but I know these names just from everything you would hear watching wrestling or the wrestling video games or listening to people talk about the legends of the sport. So I was like, I have to meet him. Wish I would have brought a little bit more money to meet a few more that were in that line, but I'll explain the setup and how weird it was for what was going on in that area. The last line that I was in, I waited nearly 3 hours for. This was the main event, and I am so happy to have gotten to meet both of these people. I already have an autograph from one, but I got to meet two people that were just extremely popular and two of my favorites growing up. Never would have thought I had an opportunity to meet these guys. Could not have been a better interaction, and they stayed past the allotted time for the convention to try and accommodate as many people. So many thanks to these guys. But I was finally able to meet one of my top 3 wrestlers in Matt Hardy, and then his brother Jeff, who is another guy that was just... I didn't really get to appreciate Jeff too much as a kid. He had already done a lot of his high-flying stunts at that point. But I did see, I think it was him who went through Edge and a ladder at WrestleMania, I think. But Matt Hardy was one of my favorites. I remember playing as him in video games all the time. And, the Hardy Boys tag team champions. And they're the current TNA tag team champions. But to get to meet both of them was awesome. But I got in line because I knew I was running low on money and the line was really long. So I kind of avoided it at first. I'm going to have to get in line at some point. I did not realize, none of us realized, just how long that line was. So the way they had it set up was Matt and Jeff were in a corner of the ballroom for this convention, and the line of people that were next to them was like the who's who in wrestling. It wasn't all of the Hall of Famers, but it was a lot of Hall of Famers. Jerry Lawler, Lex Luger, Ricky Steamboat, the Steiner brothers, Ted DiBiase, other names that just aren't coming to me right now. Ron Simmons. I mean, so many of the greats, all in the same stretch of tables. So when I was walking by, I'm like, okay, this is a really crowded area because a lot of people are in different lines and it's probably all mixed up and nobody knows what's going on. And it wasn't until we were about an hour and a half in line that we realized all of those people were there for the Hardy Boys, which makes sense. It was, one of the main headliners, when are you going to get another opportunity to meet these two future Hall of Famers? But as we were getting closer and closer, we realized that there was no line for the other Hall of Famers. People came up and there would be like one or two people, waiting and, getting their autographs and pictures and, talking to these people. But I was just shocked by the fact that that giant cluster of people wasn't for anyone else along that line of people. And I could tell some of them were getting frustrated with the lack of interaction. Because that also cost them money. I mean, granted, they were charging a lot and all that, so they still made a pretty penny. But they came all the way out to do this event, and a lot of people didn't even know they were there, or they didn't want to deal with the crowd that was there to meet those guys. So that really sucks. If I had more money, I definitely would have stopped a few more times to meet some of those people. Just didn't really plan it out too great. It is what it is. But to wait nearly 3 hours for these guys and for them to take the time, I don't know if they ended up meeting everyone that was in line, but they were still going when I left, and really says a lot. This was also the last photo that they had at the table. So I was very fortunate to get the last dual signed photo that they provided. A lot of the table, pretty much every table, had items that they provided, which made it really, really nice. And I think only like one or two of them charged you extra if you took one of their photos. A lot of them, it was included in the autograph price. But a fantastic day. It reminded me so much of what I enjoyed about wrestling as a kid. I just haven't been able to get into it recently. I've tried to watch a couple matches, tried to watch an episode of SmackDown. It's just still not for me, but I really appreciate the history of what WWE is and what it's done for the fans and the storylines that they were able to come up with for so long. So hopefully it sounds like there's a chance Indianapolis can get the WrestleMania in 2027. If they do, WrestleCon should be there, and if it is, I'm definitely going again and avoiding the WWE experience because I thought there could have been more to it. But for 4 hours of it to get all of these legends and new names and a bunch of cool looking autographs, totally worth it. Super glad that I went. But let me know what you guys think. Are any of these people your favorite wrestlers? Have you ever gotten to meet a wrestler before? Because this was the first time that I ever got to. I don't believe I've ever met a WWE or really just professional wrestler in general. So Carlito was my first. And the most recent, Matt and Jeff Hardy. But that is it for this one. Thank you guys for watching. I really, really appreciate it. Helps me out a lot. Best luck with your guys' collecting. Take care.